आपका आज की वीडियो में।
स्वागत
आज
है।
जो वीडियो हम देखने जा रहे हैं उसका टाइटल है
व्हाई डिवोटीज सफर, स्वामी सर्वप्रियानंदा।
तो चलिए देखते हैं ये वीडियो, लेकिन से पहले
इस वीडियो चैनल का ओरिजिनल लिंक आपको हमारी वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन मिल जाएगा। सब्सक्राइब के लाइक शेयर को फॉलो करेंगे चैनल को। उसके अलावा लोग चैनल लिंक इंस्टाग्राम लिंक भी हमारी वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन मिल जाएगा। सब्सक्राइब के लाइक शेयर को फॉलो करें।
चलिए देख लेते हैं ये वीडियो।
Welcome to our YouTube channel where wisdom meets inspiration. In this channel, we share valuable insights to help you become the best version of yourself. Our content is designed to uplift your spirit and enrich your life. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay connected with this incredible journey. Click the subscribe button below.
So, what's the point of spiritual practice? So Ramakrishna next says, those who lead a householder's life should practice spiritual discipline. They should pray eagerly to God in solitude. That's asking. Don't think that you will attain to enlightenment because of those practices. But those practices signal God that this person is in the game. He wants God realization. Then God takes over. But he's a speculative philosopher, someone very learned like Mr. Chaudhary. He is reading lots of books by philosophers and all to find an answer to his questions. To Mr. Chaudhary, God cannot be realized through scholarship. You can't argue your way to God. Who indeed can even understand the things of the Spirit through reason? No, all should strive for devotion to the lotus feet of God. Infinite are the glories of God. How little can you fathom them? Can we ever find out the meaning of God's ways? And then he explains. This is all of it is a build up to this. He knows the sorrow that is in Mr. Chaudhary's heart because he's lost his wife recently. So that's why he has come to Sri Ramakrishna bereaved. Then he points out, Sri Ramakrishna, this is the next part. Bhishma. Those who know the story of the Mahabharata, this great warrior, he was the senior most among the warriors in that battle. And finally he died a most painful death, I would say. He had to lay on a bed of arrows and see it through. And a particular time came when he gave up the body. He's lying there and weeping. So Arjuna asks Krishna, why is he weeping? He's such a great warrior. It's so sad to see him weeping. Then Krishna says, ask him. Upon being asked, he says, I do not weep for myself. I weep for you Pandava brothers, the heroes of the story, the 5 brothers, the Pandava brothers, among whom Arjuna was the third. And he is the one to whom the Gita was taught. So the 5 Pandava brothers, who are the heroes of this whole story. And with them they have the blessings of Krishna, who is an incarnation of God. So Krishna is with them all the time. And yet, how much they suffer. All throughout the Mahabharata is mostly a record of their sufferings and their trials and tribulations and travails. This is an interesting thing. We often have this idea. See, he has got Mr. Chaudhary in mind. We often have this idea, either quite openly or covertly, somewhere in our hearts. If I take refuge in God, if I am spiritual, if I'm prayerful and I believe in God, then I'll be protected from the miseries of life. True or not? Well, the answer is more complex than that. In one sense, yes, but in another sense, no. You will not change what is going to happen to you in life.
Yes.
What goes on in life will go on. Spiritual development, that means deep faith and devotion, love of God, protects you from the suffering that is within. Meditation, not constantly dwelling on what's happening in my life and what's happening around me, but dwelling on God all the time, protects you from that suffering. Knowledge, jnana, that I am witness consciousness. I am not affected by what happens to the body, mind. I am ever the witness, ever perfect, ever liberated. That clarity, that protects you from that suffering. Karma yoga, selfless action, that where you are more concerned about the welfare of others than one's own little individual personal welfare. That protects you from suffering. But how does it protect you from suffering? Will it remove old age, disease, death, the nasty behavior of others, financial troubles, will it remove? No, it won't. Then how does it protect you? This I've mentioned a number of times. Very precisely, the Buddha points this out. A monk went to the Buddha, and it's actually not a apocryphal, it's not some later story. There are lots of social media stories are there. Anything wise and you attribute it to the Buddha. No, it's actually in the original Pali scriptures, this story. So it's very beautiful and very elegant. The monk goes and asks the Buddha, I have a question. What's the question? Well, you said that suffering is old age, disease, these are the biggies, Old age, disease, these are the biggies. But there are lots of suffering. There's financial problems, there is social problems, there is parking problems, whatnot. Forest fire, smoke problem, haze out there. So all sorts of, from minor irritations to major aggravations, all sorts of problems. There's war and so on. But old age, disease, death. Our senior most member, Bill Conrad, so he's 98, going on 99 now. He once in a while he tells me, old age is not for sissies, Swami. So these are the big ones: disease and chronic disease, chronic pain, and then finally death. The psychologist R.D. Laing, he said, human beings are afraid of three things. First and most pervasive, even if we don't admit it, is a fear of death. We push it far into our subconscious. Most people say, I don't think about death. You don't, but you are afraid. And if you don't think about death, you're more afraid than others. That's fright for you. If you say, I don't have a problem, I am perfectly normal, then you're really abnormal then. There's something seriously wrong with you. That's sort of a Freudian approach there. So what is it that you're suppressing? So fear of death. R.D. Laing said fear of death. That's one thing. Of three things that human beings are afraid of, first is fear of death. Second one is other people. We're afraid of other people. Third, we're afraid of our own minds.
Yes.
Any mature person will have these three fears. So old age, disease, death. And then you, O Buddha, you said there is a way out of this, and you have found the way. You have become enlightened and you have found a way beyond suffering, beyond this suffering. The Buddha said, yes, what is the question? Well, my question is, but you are becoming old and you get disease once in a while. And unfortunately, I guess you're going to die one day. He lived up to 80, but he did die. And those of us we are all following you. We are all following you. We too, some of us have died. We are all getting old. We all get sick. So how did your teaching take us, or even you? At least you are enlightened. How did it take us beyond suffering? You see the logic? Suffering, what is suffering? The goal is to go beyond suffering. What is suffering? Old age, disease, death. And you get enlightenment. You have attained bodhi, nirvana, and gone beyond suffering. But you're still getting old. You're still getting sick. And one day you will die. The Buddha's answer was that, listen, O monk, the nature of suffering is like a man hit by two arrows. One arrow is what the world throws at you. Old age, disease, death, the behavior of others, financial problems, ups and downs of Wall Street, war, forest fires. All of this is what the world throws at you. That's the first arrow. The second arrow is your reaction to all of this. And the second arrow is what causes the real pain. I often say, the doctors know this very well. The first arrow, disease, some kind of sickness, accident, problem. And doctors have seen all the time that how two patients react very differently. One with a pretty serious condition might be calm and dignified. Another with a minor little problem might completely fall apart. So it's the second arrow, our reaction to the situations in life which really cause suffering to us. And then the Buddha goes on to say that what I am teaching you will remove the suffering caused by the second arrow. Your whole response to life will change. He just said it will remove the suffering caused by the second arrow. About the first, I cannot do anything. So old age, disease, death will keep happening. So that's what Sri Ramakrishna is trying to point out with the story of Bhishma. That Bhishma says, I weep, thinking that God himself is with the Pandavas. And those who know the story of Mahabharata, they know. It's a story of woe and evil and mistreatment and deprivation and so many problems, huge problems. And God was with the ones who suffered most. So Bhishma says, I am astonished. I don't know how to explain this. And this is exactly what was going to happen to Narendranath very soon. I was just thinking, think about it this way. Narendranath, who became Vivekananda, at the time when he had become a disciple, he had just started coming, and then he had already started learning from Ramakrishna. And when he was pretty advanced and having extraordinary mystical experiences and doing an intense spiritual practice, who could be more with God than Narendranath? The young seeker of God, the perfect student. Exactly at that time was most intense suffering in the worldly sense. His father died. He was the son of a rich family. He didn't know what to do. Suddenly they were put in dire straits, and he found that they had no money, and in fact they were in debt, and relatives pounced on the helpless family and tried to even throw them out of their house and occupy something. So his widowed mother and his younger brothers and sisters who were just kids by that time. And he was the eldest son of the house. They thought it's his responsibility. And he went from door to door looking for a job. He couldn't get a job. Helpless. He goes to Sri Ramakrishna, and we know the story. But my point is, look, who is more spiritual than Narendranath at that point? And in a worldly sense, he's suffering a lot. So the two can go together. We have this subtle thing that if I'm spiritual, religious, well, you can be spiritual or religious, you can't be anywhere close to Narendranath. And look how he suffered. Now, does that mean then we won't be religious or spiritual? Well, then you are increasing the quantum of suffering. You get 2 arrows then. At least the second arrow will be safe from. Your spiritual practice will protect you from the second arrow. Won't it at all change what will happen to me in the world? That also it says it will change. There is a secret to it though. The secret is this, that what happens in the world is Brahman, pure consciousness, existence consciousness place, is completely indifferent. Whether you are miserable, suffering in terrible dire straits, poverty stricken, a terrible condition, or you are rich and happy and famous and people like you, all of that is exactly equal to Brahman. From Brahman's perspective, this is all name and form, appearance. That's from Shiva's perspective. But Shakti is the divine mother. So the mother is compassionate. The mother understands our weaknesses, our foibles, and is endlessly forgiving. Father is strict. So the mother said, what spiritual practice does, Ma Sharada said, it reduces the impact of your karma. If you catch hold of God, actually even the first arrow will be blunted. So in her own words, where you would have had a leg cut off, you will get a pinprick. So that's a big saving for us. So we calculate in that way, it's a big saving for us. And we know the story of how he goes to Vivekananda, goes to Sri Ramakrishna, and he is desperate. And he doesn't know where to turn. He's too proud to ask for help from others. Even his own friends, rich friends, his mother, there's sometimes no food in the house and not enough food. And as the eldest son, he was too proud to tell his mother that he was hungry. He would say, I have been invited by a friend of mine for a party or something like that, so I don't need to eat today. But he would go hungry the whole day so that his brothers and sisters could eat. He wouldn't tell his friends. Sometimes, he was always the leader of the group and singing songs and all of that. And friends would sometimes notice, why do you look so pale? Why do you look so unhappy? In fact, the only one who knew this and did something to help was the writer of this book, Master Mahashaya. And because being very quiet and self-effacing in nature, he would anonymously send money to their house. It's only much later that people found out. But anyway, dire straits. Now, there's a point to this story. What happens next? He goes to Sri Ramakrishna and tells him that, this is getting very difficult. Can you help me? Can you tell the mother, Kali? Can you tell your mother? And Sri Ramakrishna says, it's Tuesday, it's a good day. Tuesdays and Saturdays are supposed to be the days of Divine Mother. In Dakshineshwar Kali temple, this is the temple, and today is the evening. It's a very good time to pray to the mother. Why don't you go and ask her? He said, she won't listen to me. She listens to, he said, she listens to you. You go and ask her. And then Sri Ramakrishna said, no, you go ahead. You go and ask. And there he said something which people overlook. He said it in Bengali, just a little comment and observation, but which is very important for the rest of us ordinary people. He said, "Tui amar maa ke manish na to tai tora to dukkha." You don't accept the Divine Mother. That's why you suffer so. Now that gets lost in the drama of the whole story, but it's a clue for all of us. It's a subtle but powerful instruction for all of us. Because yes, we want meditation and knowledge and devotion, all the spiritual practices which will remove the suffering of the second arrow. Great, that's straightforward. That's what the Buddha said. But we also want to negotiate a little about the first arrow. What life is throwing at us, it can be too much and too overwhelming. Can I get a concession, or can things be put off a little more, a presidential pardon for the student loans or something like that? I know I took that money, but can I not pay it back? So our karmic loans, can I be let off the hook once in a while? I know I used to do that. I had this Sanskrit teacher when I was a little kid. He would come and teach, and he'd get loads of homework. To be fair, it was not loads, I was just lazy, but it was just homework and Sanskrit grammar. I mean, come on, a little kid. So I wouldn't do it. And the day he would come to teach me at home, I would desperately go. We had a little shrine and go and pray that, let him not come today. I promise I'll do the homework next time. He would come on an old creaky bicycle, and it would have a particular screech. And I would be praying, and God was very heartless. I was praying, little boy, and there would be screech, and he is here. So we would want it once in a while, the teacher not to come. So Sri Ramakrishna says, it is possible to some extent that the mother will help you. And then we know the rest of the story, of course we know. Then Vivekananda Narendra went to the temple of Kali. Then he came back and he said he was so overwhelmed. There was a living presence of the deity. And Sri Ramakrishna said, then what happened? He said, I asked for devotion, I asked for knowledge, I asked for dispassion. Oh, that's all right, but did you ask for money? He said, no, I couldn't. Oh, what a fool you are. Go back, there's yet time. Go back and ask for money. So he goes back a second time. The same thing. I asked for devotion and knowledge and enlightenment. And he is almost intoxicated. It's like coming face to face with the mother of the universe. And Sri Ramakrishna scolds him again. Oh, what a fool you are. You should ask for money. Go back and ask this yet time. Third time also the same thing happens. And then Narendranath realizes, this is your play. You are doing this. Sri Ramakrishna was testing him. And he was very glad that he didn't ask for anything worldly. Then Sri Ramakrishna blessed him. He said, all right, I bless you that your family will not lack plain food and clothing. He didn't say that they're going to be Wall Street multimillionaires, billionaires. No. He just said they will not lack plain food and clothing. That much was true. They still had a hard time of it over the years, but they were provided for. This gentleman, he has faith in God. He is also overtly intellectual. So Sri Ramakrishna first says you can't argue your way to God. You can't read your way to God. And also he points out, just because you are spiritual, just because you are a good person, does not mean you will be spared suffering. Because he has lost his wife. He is very unhappy. So he points that out. people suffer terribly, and then they say, I've lost faith in God. Intensely I believe in God, I used to, but now I don't believe in God anymore. I lost faith in God. And the answer to that is, you expected something else of God other than God. And the second thing is, don't worry, you haven't lost faith in God. Anybody who intensely believed in God might be upset with God, but that faith will not go away. It will come back again, and it will come back in a purer and higher form. There are these two approaches to religion, the lower and the higher. One is God for my life. I have my life, and there are certain things which are conveniences in my life. A washing machine is a convenience, a Wi-Fi is a convenience. Like that, God is also a convenience in my life. God will make my life better. Most people are there, when you go to the temples and churches, most people who turn up there are not turning up for enlightenment and liberation and salvation. No. That's something good to have later on. But right now I want God to help me with my medical bills, with my relationship problems, with my health problems, so on and so forth. So I want God to help me. God for my life. But the higher religion, spirituality, which is what we are all here for, is my life for God. My goal is God realization. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is pointing at. He will say later on, the higher love of God is not for any worldly end. You may get the worldly end, don't worry about that. That also you will be protected. You will be taken care of. At the very least, plain food and clothing. Like Sri Ramakrishna said. So you need not worry about that. But our love of God should be for God only, for God realization. And that's what God loves most. He'll give the example of the rich man, a person who turns up at the door of the rich man, and the rich man finally says, what do you want? Nothing. It's like you. Similarly, the rich man is God. And I keep thinking about God. I really don't want anything. But I love God. So that devotion without any personal motive behind it. You may ask for the welfare of others. Generally don't ask for specific prayers. Let that person be cured, or let that person, not for yourself. Some people ask, can I ask for others? You can. See, often parents, they are helpless. They are so, helplessly concerned about their children's welfare. So it's cruel to tell them not to pray for the children's welfare. So they will pray for the children's welfare. That's good. Nothing wrong in it. And in general, add the welfare of all beings. Always let all good come to all beings. That's what I want.
Become Swami Vivekananda's messenger. Share the video with 3 of your friends.
इस वीडियो में जो है ना, जो मैसेज है वो बहुत अच्छा है कि भाई ज़िंदगी में जो है ना, अगर आप बड़े बड़े लोगों को भी देखते हैं जिनका पूरी दुनिया में जो है वो एक नाम है, तो उनकी ज़िंदगी को भी आप उठाकर देखें ना, उन्होंने जो चीज़ें हासिल की हैं ना, वो इतनी आसानी से हासिल नहीं की। उन्हें जो है वो चीज़ें हासिल करने के लिए उनके अंदर एक चाह, एक इच्छा, ये चीज़ें जो है वो आपको दिखाई देती हैं। और इसमें हकीकत है, जैसे हमने स्वामी विवेकानंद जी की जो वीडियो देखी कि भाई वो जब काली माँ के टेंपल के अंदर गए तो उन्होंने जाकर वहाँ पे धन दौलत नहीं मांगी। अगर हम आज के टाइम की अगर बात करें ना, तो हम लोगों का वो एक कहते हैं ना कि भाई हमारा किबला जो है वो पैसा ही है। हर बंदा जो है वो चाहता है भाई ढेर सारा पैसा जो है वो उसके पास आए। बाकी जो है भाई अगर हम बात करें डिवोटी होने की, या अपने आप को जो है बिल्कुल ही खूब कर जो है वो किसी भी चीज़ और को हासिल करने की, वो हमारी नहीं होती। हम ये कहते हैं भाई ठीक है पैसा है ना, सब कुछ खुद ही आ जाएगा।
अच्छा, आज का सेशन और जो इसका टॉपिक था वो बहुत ही खूबसूरत था, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इतना डीप आपको जाकर चीज़ें बताई जाती हैं ना, और पता नहीं क्यों समटाइम्स आई फील कि मैं जब इस तरह के सेशंस सुनती हूँ, लाइक वर्चुअली अटेंड कर रही हूँ, तो मतलब इसको सुनने के बाद मेरा दिल करता है कि मैं इन वर्ड्स को, इन चीज़ों को अपने अंदर एब्जॉर्ब कर लूँ। लाइक उसके बाद आपको ना बोलने की आवश्यकता नहीं रहती, आपका मन करता है कि आप उस चीज़ को फील करो और समझो। मतलब ये अब आकर मेरे साथ होता है, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट। पहले चीज़ें बहुत ज़्यादा ऊपर सर से जाती होती थी, लेकिन अभी जब चीज़ें थोड़ी समझ आती ना, तो थोड़ा सा आप ऐसे रिलैक्स होते हो जब आपको वो समझ आ रही होती हैं। सो जो टाइटल भी था कि वाई डिवोटीज सफ़र, तो सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम तो ये है ना कि हम लोगों ने खुद ही अपने आप को एज्यूम कर लिया है कि हम अच्छे हैं और हम बहुत सफ़र कर रहे हैं। अब सफ़र करने की क्या मतलब वो स्थिति रहती है और वो रीज़न्स क्या हैं, उस पर तो कभी हमारी तवज्जो जाती नहीं, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि हम लोग इतने सेल्फिश होते हैं कि हम लोग अपने बारे में सब कुछ अच्छा अज्यूम करके बैठे होते हैं और हम लोग ये सोच रहे होते हैं कि भाई हमारे साथ ही ऐसा क्यों हुआ। क्योंकि मैंने मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम लोगों से यही उनके मुंह से बात सुनी है कि हमने तो किसी के साथ कुछ बुरा नहीं किया, हमारे साथ ही ऐसा क्यों हुआ। तो वो एक आप कह लो कि थैंकलेस बिहेवियर हम इंसानों में बहुत ज़्यादा पाया जाता है। और मुझे लगता है सबसे ज़्यादा मैटर करता है आपकी फाउंडेशन, आपकी टीचिंग किस तरह से दी जाती हैं। क्योंकि जिस तरीके से आज स्वामी जी ने एक्सप्लेन की चीज़ें वो मुझे इतनी खूबसूरत लग रही थी कि मुझे लग रहा था कि आपकी लाइफ में बहुत सारी उलझनें और बहुत सारी जो प्रॉब्लम्स हैं वो खुद ही आप अपने हाथों से सही कर सकते हो। लाइक हम में से हर कोई ये सोचता है कि अगर जैसे जो भी जिस भी फेथ को फॉलो करता है तो हम बहुत अगर रिलीजियस हो जाएंगे तो ऊपर वाला हमसे खुश हो जाएगा और हमारी लाइफ में सब कुछ अच्छा हो जाएगा। जो बेसिक मुझे लगता है कि हमारी जो मुझे गलती लगती है एक तरह से कि हम लोग ऐसे अज्यूम करके बैठ जाते हैं, ऐसा नहीं होता। ऊपर वाले ने भी यही बात बोली हुई है कि भाई आप मेहनत करो। मतलब वैसे एक मुहावरा है कि हीले के साथ वसीला है।
हाँ।
मतलब हीले के साथ वसीला मतलब ये कि अगर मेहनत करोगे तो ऊपर वाला भी आपके लिए रास्ते जो है वो निकालता जाएगा।
बिल्कुल।
तो जैसे ही सेशन स्टार्ट होता है तो पहली बात मुझे बड़ी खूबसूरत लगी और पता नहीं क्यों मुझे ऐसे लग रहा था आजकल कुछ वीडियोस ऐसे मेरे सामने आ रही है ना जो मुझे मेरे ही सवालों के जवाब देती हैं जो मेरे माइंड में चल रहे होते हैं। तो जैसे समटाइम्स हम लोग ये बात बोलते हैं कि लाइक इंसान ऊपर वाले की मतलब पूजा करता है या इबादत करता है। तो मतलब जिस तरह से उन्होंने बोला ना कि सुबह मतलब उठ कर आपको ये टाइम जो है वो देना चाहिए एक तरह से, क्योंकि आप एटलीस्ट आप उस रेस में आ जाते हो। अगर आप बहुत ज़्यादा स्पिरिचुअल नहीं भी हो तो आप एक उस रेस में आ जाते हो, आपकी एक अटेंडेंस तो मार्क हो ही जाती है। और धीरे धीरे जब वो चीज़ें होना शुरू हो जाती हैं तो डेफिनेटली आपका कहीं ना कहीं पर कनेक्शन भी जो है वो बेहतर होना शुरू हो जाता है। और मुझे ये चीज़ बड़ी देर बाद समझ आई है कि लाइक जिस तरह से हमें ज़रूरत होती है उसी तरीके से ऊपर वाले को भी हमारी ज़रूरत होती है कि उसका भक्त जो है वो उसकी भक्ति करे, उसको मतलब एक उसको भी अच्छा फील होता है। लेकिन उसके साथ साथ एक चीज़ जो मैं ये बात सोचती हूँ ना कि जो हम लोगों को नहीं सिखाई जाती वो यही है कि हम लोगों को जो जैसे अगर हम लोग मान लो कि इबादत करते हैं, नमाज़ पढ़ते हैं या कोई और हम लोग स्पिरिचुअल प्रैक्टिस करते हैं तो उसके असर से ऐसा नहीं है कि हमारी लाइफ में से सारी हर्डल्स ख़त्म हो जाएंगी। उसके असर से हम लोगों में इतना हमें सहना आ जाएगा या हम इतने कंपोज पर्सन बन जाएंगे कि हम उसको हैंडल कर लेंगे मेंटली और फिज़िकली। क्योंकि मेंटली और फिज़िकली चीज़ों को हैंडल करना और उनको फेस करना ये बहुत मुझे लगता है कि एक बड़ी बात होती है। क्योंकि मैंने बहुत सारे लोगों की मानसिक स्थिति जो है वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा ख़राब होते हुए देखी है सिचुएशंस के कारण। और जैसे गुरुजी ने बीच में एग्जांपल दी पेशेंट्स को लेकर, मैं बिल्कुल मैं कहती हूँ मैंने लाइव ये चीज़ें देखी हैं कि एक ही बीमारी दो लोगों की होगी और एक जो है वो बहुत खामोशी के साथ बहुत हिम्मत के साथ उसको फेस करेगा और दूसरा उसी प्रॉब्लम को उसी बीमारी को चीखेगा, चिल्लाएगा, उसका टेम्परामेंट बड़ा शॉर्ट हो जाएगा। तो ये वाकई में चीज़ें ऐसी हैं कि जिनमें छोटी छोटी चीज़ों में हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी सीख है।
यार मुझे लगता है कि आपके अंदर ही जो है ना वो हीलिंग पावर्स जो है वो होती हैं। और मेरा ख्याल है सबसे पहले अगर आप अपने मन को और अपने दिमाग को जो है ना वो कंट्रोल कर लेना तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो होती हैं ना वो आपकी ज़िंदगी से जो है वो आराम सुकून से जो है वो हल हो जाती हैं। हम यानी कि जो लोग बहुत ज़्यादा स्पिरिचुअल नहीं हैं, जिसमें मैं अपने आप को भी इंक्लूड करता हूँ, हमारा मसला सबसे ज़्यादा जो है वो ये रहता है कि हमारा दिल जो है ना वो बहुत मचलता रहता है, जिसकी वजह से हम जो है ना ओवर थिंक करते हैं चीज़ों को कि अच्छा आज ये है, पता नहीं कल होगा, परसों होगा या नहीं होगा। यानी कि हम इन चीज़ों में जो है ना वो बहुत ज़्यादा ओवर थिंक करते हैं, जो कि मेरा ख्याल है सबसे पहले जो है ना वो इन चीज़ों को अपनी ज़िंदगी से ना कंट्रोल कर निकाल कोई भी नहीं सकता, ठीक है ना। आप जितनी मर्जी कोशिश करें, आपका दिल दिमाग जो ना जो एक प्रोसेस होता है ना उसका एक दूसरे का टसल का, वो हमेशा लगती रहती है। लेकिन हाँ, आप इसे कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, आप ओवर थिंकिंग को करना जो है वो बंद कर सकते हैं। क्योंकि अगर देखा जाए तो भाई ज़िंदगी किसी की भी आसान नहीं होती है। अर्जुन जी की बात की जाए तो उनकी ज़िंदगी भी आसान नहीं थी। कृष्ण जी की अगर बात की जाए तो शुरू से जो है शुरू में उनकी ज़िंदगी क्या, उनके जो माता पिता थे उनकी ज़िंदगी की भी अगर बात की जाए तो उनकी ज़िंदगी भी कोई आसान नहीं थी। क्योंकि कंस जो था उसी की जेल में जो है उन्होंने कितने बच्चों को जो है वो जन्म दिया, तो और कोई बच्चा जो है वो सरवाइव नहीं कर पाया सिवाय कृष्ण जी के। तो अगर देखा जाए तो भाई ये उनके लिए एक कम पीड़ा जो है वो नहीं थी, उनके लिए कम समस्या नहीं थी। लेकिन क्या था कि एक उम्मीद थी उन्हें कि भाई एक वक्त आएगा कि वो जो है इस जेल से जो है वो निकल जाएंगे, ठीक है।
हाँ,
तो
हाँ।
देखा जाए तो भाई पीड़ा जो है, तकलीफ़ जो है वो हर इंसान की ज़िंदगी में जो है वो होती है। कुछ लोग जो है इसे कंट्रोल कर जाते हैं और वो अपने तक रख कर उसका सलूशन जो है वो ढूंढने की कोशिश करते हैं, अपने आप को रिलैक्स करने की कोशिश करते हैं, अपने आप को हील करते हैं। ऑन दी अदर साइड जो है ना, ऐसे भी लोग मैंने ज़िंदगी में देखे हैं कि होती बात कुछ भी नहीं है, लेकिन वो उस बात को इतना बड़ा बना देंगे ना कि वो अपनी ज़िंदगी डिस्टर्ब नहीं करते, अपने साथ साथ और सारे लोगों की भी ज़िंदगियां जो वो डिस्टर्ब कर देते हैं।
इवन कि अगर हम लोग राम जी की भी बात करें तो मतलब तुम ये देखो कि मतलब जो मैंने डिफरेंट वीडियोस के माध्यम से देखा कि नेक्स्ट डे उनको सिंहासन पर बैठना था और उनको वनवास पर जाना पड़ा।
बिल्कुल।
तो मतलब आप ये देखो कि एक बिल्कुल जो आपकी लाइफ है वो चेंज हो गई, ठीक है। आपने एक्सपेक्ट भी नहीं किया कि आपके साथ लाइफ में क्या होने वाला है। तो मैं ये बात सोचती हूँ कि हम जो बहुत एक ऑर्डिनरी से इंसान है, मतलब हम लोगों की ना एक्सपेक्टेशंस बहुत ज़्यादा है और हमारे कर्म बहुत कम है। और बिल्कुल स्वामी जी की एक और बात को मैं यहाँ पर मतलब उसका भी एक रेफरेंस देना चाहूँगी कि मैं बिल्कुल ये बात बहुत अच्छे से मतलब मुझे समझ आ रही थी कि आपकी लाइफ में सबसे बड़ा डर मुझे ऐसा लगता है, नो डाउट मौत का डर है, बिल्कुल है। ऐसा मैं भी नहीं मान सकती कि किसी को मौत का डर नहीं है, इंसानों का डर भी होता है बिल्कुल। लेकिन जो आपका दिमाग का डर होता है ना, मुझे लगता है वो सबसे बड़ा डर होता है। जब आप इसके लिए कोई स्टेप लेते हो ना, तो मुझे लगता है कि वो सब चीज़ें जो है ना आपकी सही होना शुरू हो जाती हैं। क्योंकि आप मतलब मैं अगर अपनी बात करूँ ना, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आपको अपने दिमाग के डर के लिए खुद ही एफर्ट करनी पड़ेगी, वरना आपका दिमाग इतनी कहानियां बनाएगा कि आप उसी में फंस कर रह जाओगे। जैसे मौजूद ने बोला कि ओवर थिंकिंग, वाकई में हम इतनी ओवर थिंकिंग करते हैं। बट ओवरऑल बहुत बहुत खूबसूरत वीडियो थी, लाइक ऐसी वीडियो थी कि जो मुझे लग रहा है कि एक हम मतलब आपके ना मतलब जहन को सुकून देने के लिए थी कि आपको बात सुनकर बहुत अच्छा फील हो रहा था। बाकी जितने भी हम लोग बड़े बड़े लोग देखें या हम लोग ऐसी मतलब बात करें जो कि स्पिरिचुअल लोग थे, उनकी लाइफ कभी इजी नहीं रही। और मतलब और जैसे बीच में उन्होंने बुद्धा जी का भी जिक्र किया, वाकई में दो तरह के ही तीर होते हैं। एक होता है कि एक्शन जो हमें फेस करना पड़ता है लोगों की तरफ से, सोसाइटी की तरफ से, और उसका रिएक्शन हम कैसे देते हैं। और उस वहाँ पर ही मुझे लगता है कि हम अपनी सफरिंग ज़्यादा कर देते हैं रिएक्शन में, क्योंकि मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम हम लोग वैसा ही रिएक्ट करते हैं जैसा अगला बंदा हमसे रिएक्शन चाहता है।
बिल्कुल।
तो ये चीज़ समझने में बड़ी मुद्दतें लग जाती हैं और समटाइम्स आपको सारी ज़िंदगी ये चीज़ समझ नहीं आती। और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि अगर शुरू से आपको ये चीज़ें समझाई जाएँ तो वो आपकी ज़िंदगी का एक हिस्सा बन जाती हैं और वो आपकी ना, मुझे लगता है कि सोच और आपकी समझ उसको काफ़ी फॉर्म करने में हेल्प करती है। बाकी कमेंट सेक्शन में आप ज़रूर बताइएगा कि आपको आज की वीडियो कैसी लगी और इसी के साथ हमें ज़्यादा चैनल करें।
गुड बाय।